Have you ever watched someone on screen and wondered if what you're seeing is actually real, or if there's more to the story behind the camera? That is exactly the curiosity many fans have when it comes to Melissa Rauch, best known for her role as Bernadette on The Big Bang Theory. She is funny, energetic, and unforgettable, but one topic that keeps coming up among viewers is her body measurements and how they compare to what we see on television. At first glance, many people assume they already know the answer. But when you take a closer look, the reality is far more interesting than expected. Melissa Rauch was born in 1980 and raised in New Jersey, and before becoming a household name, she worked hard in smaller acting roles while also building her skills as a writer. When she finally landed her breakout role on The Big Bang Theory, audiences quickly fell in love with her unique voice, comedic timing, and the way she brought so much personality into a small, energetic character. Her height, which is around 5 feet 2 inches, immediately made her stand out, especially when compared to her co-stars. But while her height is easy to notice, her actual body proportions are something that often surprise people once they learn the real numbers. Based on commonly reported information, her measurements are approximately 33 inches for the bust, 25 inches for the waist, and 34 inches for the hips. On paper, these numbers may seem fairly standard or even small compared to average measurements, but the key detail is how these proportions work together. Because her waist is quite slim compared to her bust and hips, she has a naturally defined shape that gives the impression of a more dramatic figure, especially on screen. This effect becomes even more noticeable due to her petite height, which makes every proportion appear more pronounced than it might on a taller person. When you compare her to the average woman, whose measurements are generally larger overall, it becomes clear that Melissa Rauch is smaller in size, yet very balanced in proportion, which is why she often looks different from what people expect. Another important factor to understand is how much television can change what we think we see. Camera angles, lighting, wardrobe choices, and even posture all play a role in shaping perception. On The Big Bang Theory, her character often wore outfits that added layers, textures, or patterns, which could make her appear curvier or slightly different in shape than she actually is. In some scenes, she might even look taller or more proportioned differently depending on how the shot was framed. This is not unusual in television. It is part of how visual storytelling works. The goal is to create a certain look or impression, and sometimes that means enhancing or altering how a person appears without changing anything about their real body. This is why many fans are surprised when they learn that her real-life measurements are actually more modest than what they imagined. Beyond the numbers, there is a much bigger takeaway here. People are naturally curious about celebrity bodies, but focusing only on measurements can miss the bigger picture. Melissa Rauch's appeal does not come from numbers alone. It comes from her confidence, her talent, and the way she fully commits to every role she plays. Her performance as Bernadette is memorable not because of how she looks, but because of how she delivers lines, expresses emotions, and connects with the audience. In fact, her smaller stature combined with her strong personality is exactly what makes her character so unique and entertaining. It is also worth noting that she has talents beyond acting. She has worked as a writer, contributed creatively behind the scenes, and even done voice acting for animated projects. These aspects of her career show that there is much more to her than just appearance. So while her measurements might be an interesting detail for fans, they are only a small part of what defines her success. In the end, Melissa Rauch proves something important. What we see on screen is not always the full reality, and what truly makes someone stand out is not their size, but their presence, skill, and confidence. Whether she is delivering a hilarious line or simply appearing in a scene, she leaves a lasting impression that goes far beyond numbers.